Now, as far as like, I would say this is a perfect segue because I think "Hit Me Baby One More Time" is probably one of the most iconic videos ever. Epic 90s videos is the subtitle that we have for it. There's a few that we already mentioned that I just want to run through because we're not going to have a discussion about these again. But inside of Epic 90s videos, I would say, Nirvana "Smells Like Teen Spirit" has to be in there. Beastie Boys "Sabotage," 9 Inch Nails "Closer," Soundgarden. We've already mentioned those, and I would say, I guess we put those under their subgenres, but I would say that they're also epic 90s videos that everybody has to have seen or should see if you haven't.
Yeah, I guess this comes down to there not being a wrong or right definition of the word epic. It sounds like to you, epic just kind of more means of like the memory stamp that you take from it. Like, I don't necessarily consider Nirvana "Smells Like Teen Spirit" an epic video. It's one of the greatest and biggest videos of the 1990s. But when I think of epic, my definition comes down to extravagance.
Okay.
It comes down to and the 90s had a ton of these. The 90s had a ton of these extravagant videos that were like events. Like, for instance, one we did not put in our notes here, but I would be remiss to think of, or not to speak of, when I think of epic videos, would be the Michael Jackson black or white video,
for sure,
which was like this. Tune in at 8 tonight when it premieres, and it was almost like when Thriller debuted. That to me would have been an epic video of the 80s. There's a production value. So there isn't a wrong or right way. It's just, I guess it's about a personal perspective.
True. Yeah. It's just what your definition of epic is. We had trouble, if you guys haven't realized, trying to figure out what to call this episode. So we just ended up calling it like, 90s music video flashback, because that's all we wanted to do was talk about these. We had a very hard way of like trying to put these into a box. I know we try to put these into genres and things like that, but saying which ones were epic is all in the eyes of the beholder. So you're just kind of getting a taste of what we both, think are like a different level, essentially.
Yeah, and like, again, piggybacking on that Michael Jackson thing, which it's tough talking about Michael Jackson these days, but you can't. I don't erase history books. I might view history a little differently. That can happen. But
look, here's the truth. Remember, John, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but here's the truth. If Thriller's on the radio, you're bumping your goddamn head. I don't care who you are. Like, you're gonna forget about everything for a short period of time and just listen to that song.
Yes, exactly. Phil Spector is my favorite musical mind of all time. I'm not turning off the Ronettes' "Be My Baby" if it's on the radio because he murdered a lady. I view him differently.
You're able to separate the art from the artist.
Yes, I view the artist much differently, but nobody's turning off, the Ronettes' version of "Sleigh Ride" at Christmas time. Like, nobody's doing that. Like, people are still going to be on in the mall, even though the guy who put the record together is actually, he just recently died because he died in prison after being convicted of murder.
Man.
Yeah, kind of crazy. The guy who wrote, the guy who produced "Be My Baby."
I mean, he looked like, I'm not too familiar with like his background and stuff. I mean, that guy just looks crazy. Like, he looks insane.
Oh, well, it's really funny. To side note, because we talked about Phil Spector. I could do a full episode on Phil Spector, but he produced the Ramones record "End of the Century," and on the Ramones documentary of the same name, Marky Ramone tells a story about how Phil Spector held Johnny at gunpoint in his studio.
Oh my God!
And would not let him leave until the track was done properly.
Holy shit.
And at the time, I'm thinking, there's no way. And then 2 years later, he murders the lady, and I'm like, oh my God, that makes sense. Crazy. But it's tough to do a music podcast without Phil Spector coming up at some point, I guess.
Staying in the dark tones of things and mentioning another music video that we haven't mentioned so far. Metallica's "Enter Sandman" was clearly a dark video. Not as dark as some other things that we mentioned already, but absolutely awesome. Very low budget, very low key. music video, but it got the point across, which, was about having messed up dreams, I guess, essentially.
Yeah, and there's so many iconic moments in his video. The one that always stands out for me is the truck hitting the bed.
Yeah.
I'll never forget that. And it's weird because this was always a with Metallica. I had already been a Metallica fan for a few years when this came out. For most people, this was kind of their jumping into Metallica. I had a friend whose older brother was hugely into Metallica, so we were in like first, second grade listening to you know, Kill 'Em All and Ride the Lightning and Injustice for All. Like that, we thought we were the coolest kids in the world.
Yeah, man,
So when Black
you knew
Album,
all their best songs before anybody else did, man. I mean, not that anybody else didn't, but like the metal people listen to Metallica, but this is when everyone listened to Metallica.
yes. And it's weird is that I would eventually kind of have a more negative look at the Black Album, but at the time, are you kidding me? I felt validated. I felt like, oh, this band that I had been listening to for since I was a small kid, and you know how it is back then. It might have only been 5 years, but 5 years when you're a kid is like an
Oh, it's a
eternity.
lifetime.
It's a lifetime. So it felt like a very big deal when Metallica was like, not, I mean, they'd already been selling out arenas for years, but this was when they were getting radio play on mainstream radio. You were turning on WMMR and hearing Enter Sandman. It's weird. We were just talking about how alternative killed it for a lot of metal bands. Somehow Metallica came out smelling like roses out of the whole 90s boom.
Their early albums managed to sound different enough, and they were all really good. Ride the Lightning didn't sound like, Kill 'Em All. And then Master of Puppets didn't sound like Ride the Lightning. And Injustice for All didn't sound like, they all sounded different, including this album. And
well, sure.
Once Load and Reload came out, that's when their albums started to sound similar. And like, even though I do like newer songs, I actually do like Load. I think Reload's pretty good.
You don't like Saint Anger. You don't like Saint Anger.
Saint Anger is one of the worst albums I've ever listened to in my entire life, and I'm talking
until
about
you heard
Lulu ever.
Until you heard Lulu. Metallica's collaboration with Lou Reed, whatever that thing was called. Was it Lulu? Was that what it was called?
I don't know, because after Saint Anger, that put such a dent into my head that I didn't listen to any of their music, the new music, for the longest. Like, it wasn't until like a couple of years ago that I put on like their most recent record and was like, well, this is okay. But Saint Anger just did massive damage to that band for me. Like, it was that, Jesus Christ, man.
But going back to the Black Album, here's the thing that was interesting about the Black Album, because it was what you were saying, that how there was kind of a transition over their period. Kill 'Em All was your straight up thrash record. This is thrash in your face. And then when Ride the Lightning kind of like, they were like, you know what? We're going to be the best thrash band out there. But then they kind of, little by little, they kind of morphed into a more accessible band. So Injustice for All was almost, I wouldn't say a soft record, because it's by no means a soft record. It fucking shreds. But it wasn't that much of a jump from Injustice for All to the Black Album as some people make it to be.
I can understand that. Like, so Injustice for All has like, Metallica has some very long songs, but I feel like if you went back and looked at the numbers, Injustice for All has some of the longest songs on there. They almost feel like a metal ballad at how long some of the songs are on Injustice for All.
Sure. I just more mean in terms of like how a lot of people view the Black Album is more of a hard rock album than a metal album. And people were wondering where the metal went almost. I'm not saying that's true. I'm saying that's a common criticism of the record. But as a kid in the early 90s listening to that record, it was a big deal. The Enter Sandman video, crazy iconic. this song, everybody knows it. It's one of those things that my mom does not know a Metallica song ever, but she's heard Enter Sandman a bunch of times.
She's probably heard Unforgiven too.
Well, Unforgiven, I was just about to bring up Unforgiven.
I didn't mean Unforgiven too. I meant Unforgiven also, just to be clear, because they made like 3 versions of Unforgiven now. So
yes. I know. Unforgiven. We're not talking about Unforgiven Roman numeral II. We're talking about Roman numeral. We're talking about Unforgiven TOO.
Yes, that's what I meant.
So yeah, because that video, as I think I mentioned to you before, that video to this day gives me nightmares because I'm legitimately afraid that I'm gonna somehow be like 8 years old again, and bullies are gonna like chase me into a sewer, and then I'm gonna live there for the rest of my life, just scratching at the walls trying to get out.
Yeah, I mean, look, Metallica's made some great videos, like throughout the decades. Obviously, Enter Sandman is the most popular one. I could probably be arguing with like which is the most, their best video, but I would say that this is definitely the most iconic video or epic video, just for like, grabbing mainstream attention that most people would recognize. But then going back to what you said earlier about them, like it being a lighter album, like this is the mentality of someone younger. Like I said, like we were talking about earlier, who cares? They can make a fucking pop album. If it sounds good, I don't give a shit.
Going on your who cares this is a cool little tidbit. I remember when they did a single for Sad But True. That was in the peak of my buying cassette singles, even if I already had the album, because I needed to have B-sides. And the B-side they did for Sad But True was a cover called So What.
Oh, I think they ended up putting that out later on.
It's a cover of an old 80s punk band called the Anti-Nowhere League. And it is the most obscenity-ridden song you will ever hear. So it's like it's kind of funny that Metallica was kind of posed as doing as going to mainstream, but here they are doing this classic punk rock song that has the most disgusting lyrics you've ever heard in your life, and recorded on a major label. Now, real quick, because I'm going to do this a lot on this podcast, interesting tidbits and little weird side notes. We were talking about the Mighty Mighty Bosstones earlier. So somebody had leaked an early copy of the Black Album to somebody in the Ballstones camp, and they went immediately. That seems kind of random. They went they friends in the record business, record industry. They went immediately into the studio and recorded a cover of Enter Sandman and put it out before Metallica.
Are you kidding me?
They did it as a joke. It was a B-side on a single. It wasn't like it wasn't like they released it as a single and were like stealing Metallica's thunder. But it was just kind of funny. It's just kind of funny that it's like, technically, if you want to really, really go at it, did Metallica cover the Bosstones?
That's so nuts, man.
And on that same B-side, they also did a really great cover of Van Halen's "Ain't Talking About Love." So go. I would check that out if you can. It's very easy to check out music now. Ballstone's cover of Enter Sandman rips.
We're going to actually get into Van Halen in just a second, but I just want to mention that song "So What." As soon as you said that, I knew I heard that from Metallica before, but I never had a single. They ended up releasing it on the second or the re-release of Garage Days. It's called Garage Days Inc. So they made Garage Days, which was
then they did the volume 2, and that had that had the cover of "Die Die My Darling" on there by the Misfits.
That was on there also.
And on their first Garage Days, they had they did "Last Caress" and "Green Hell" by the Misfits.
Yes,
and the Metallica, and it's funny thinking about it. You'd be hard pressed to find a bigger Misfits fan than me. But I almost have to think that Metallica was responsible for me finding the Misfits, because it was my same friend whose older brother, like Metallica, is also the one who got us into the Misfits. And I think it was Metallica's love of the Misfits is why he got it.
Yeah, their covers of the Misfits songs are they're very good. I mean, you can argue back and forth which one version's better. It doesn't matter. Their covers are also very good.
Oh, they do great. Metallica does great covers because you know what? They mastered it. Here's the art. We will do an episode on covers. That will happen.
Oh, yeah.
We'll do an episode on covers. But the thing that drives me insane, as I mentioned on the previous podcast, is when bands do a cover and they want to sound exactly like the band they're covering. It makes
Metallica
no sense.
definitely does not do
Metallica's
that.
doing a cover. Metallica's doing a cover. They're doing a Metallica cover of the song they're doing.
Yep, absolutely. And it makes it so much better than like, don't try to replicate what's already done. Do your own thing, man.
Exactly. That's why I'm listening to what you're doing. So if we're going to transition here, I think this is a good transition since we're talking about Metallica, because there were many in the 90s. You were either Team Metallica or you were Team Guns N' Roses. I was Team Guns N' Roses. I was 100% Team Guns N' Roses. I'm still Team Guns N' Roses. I love Metallica. I love you guys, but I was Team Guns N' Roses. And Guns N' Roses basically were my favorite band before I found Bad Religion and after I found REM. Guns N' Roses were sandwiched in there, and they're still in my top 10. But their band that would do covers, and they would do them straight up Guns N' Roses style. Like, you're listening to Guns N' Roses do Live or Let Die. And that was a great video. But then the thing that Guns N' Roses did in the 90s is they did a barrage of epic videos that felt like Spielberg did the budget on these videos.
Oh yeah, they had some huge bangers.
Yeah, but I mean, just the production value of these videos. First, I have to mention, we won't touch on it too much, but Guns N' Roses "You Could Be Mine" video that made me a Guns N' Roses fan. So it goes back to the power of the music video. Here is Guns N' Roses doing their song that is being done for Terminator 2, which is 90s in a nutshell, that movie. That was probably, aside from Jurassic Park, the most iconic movie of the decade. So the video is Arnold Schwarzenegger walking into a Whiskey A Go-Go with a loaded shotgun. Definitely pre 9/11 there, buddy.
Oh,
walking in, nobody's even checking. Nobody's even taking his gun. He's just walking in, and he's doing the Terminator vision. And they're playing clips from the movie in that video. And Guns N' Roses are playing live, and I just think it's the coolest thing in the world. I buy the cassette single, and they're my favorite band. Then they start putting out the epic videos. It started with "Don't Cry," and then the next one is the one we're going to talk about here, which was the gigantic epic that was November Rain. Do you remember the first time seeing the November Rain video?
I wouldn't have seen it the year it came out. The year it came out was 1992, so this was like beyond me. But like, one thing that I love to do once I got into music is MTV and VH1 would have like these greatest videos of all time thing. And that might have been the first time I seen it. It also could have been like possibly on Beavis and Butthead or something like that. I don't remember exactly where or when I seen it, but I always remember that video very vividly. The song itself was, like I mentioned, Metallica's, kind of like felt like a metal, like ballad sort of album. This was like a ballad song. Like, this was clearly that from Guns N' Roses.
I wanted to do everything they did in that video. I wanted to hang out at the Whiskey. I wanted to, the Rainbow. That video's in the Rainbow.
Yeah, the
bar. Rainbow Bar. I wanted to hang out at the Rainbow Bar and do shots with Duff and Slash. I wanted to date Stephanie Seymour. I wanted to marry her. I didn't want her to die. I didn't want that to happen. but I wanted to be in such a big rock band that they had a symphony orchestra playing with you on stage.
Right.
It was this mind-blowing thing. And we're talking about the minimalist nature of the 90s. Guns N' Roses somehow weathered that storm that was alternative rock. Because Guns N' Roses were the biggest band in the world, not named U2 in 1992, 93.
Yeah, I don't know how that happened.
I don't know how that happened. No, I know you're speaking of U2. But the thing is, we're not gonna talk about what U2 did or didn't bring to the table here. And by the way, they had some crazy awesome videos for that on that. Yeah, on that TV.
Yeah.
But but we can't deny how big and popular they were, are, and will probably forever be.
Yeah.
Just don't go. And now, you know what, you two? I'm going to go listen to your next record when you put it out. Just don't automatically fucking download it to my phone, all right? That's bullshit. I did not need that. I did not need that. They sucker me in with their lead single called The Magic of Joey Ramone. I'm like, oh, wow, they wrote a song about... No, it's garbage. No. All right. I went off topic here. Bottom line is, the November Rain video was a movie.
Because the song was, I think, 8 minutes long, or like almost 8 minutes long. Like, it's very long.
It's 8 minutes long. It follows a story structure. You're watching them just date, and you're watching them get married. You're watching their abusive relationship. You're watching her die, and they allude to maybe him killing himself. Like, there's like so much going on in that video.
There is, and they still managed to squeeze in like over the top ridiculousness. Like, my favorite, this really is not like this has nothing to do with the story of the video, but that moment where they're like in the middle of the desert nowhere, there's like this small chapel. I think it's right after she died. Slash walks out of the small chapel in the middle of a desert, in the middle of nowhere. There's like, it looks like they're like probably the fake like little like crosses and like gravestones and stuff, like people that passed away. And when his solo hits, he just starts shredding outside of that chapel. And it's like, and the wind's like blowing on him, like they put giant fans in front of him. Clearly, like that shit is like hollering like 90s like cheesy shit to me. Like, that's awesome. Like a whole movie from the 80s.
Well, it's I mean, I imagine that chapel in that desert has the same acoustic structure as that mountain that Richie Sambora is playing his solo on Bed of Roses video. I guess it's just like you don't need an amp when you're in certain places.
Yeah, but dude. You don't even need to plug in. Fuck it. Just smoke a cigarette and go to town. That's it.
Dude, nature knows when you're Slash and you got a fucking leather jacket unzipped, that Les Paul is just gonna fucking wail, and you're gonna get the best sound possible. And Guns N' Roses did have a way of the epic video. And you talk about the over the topness. I mean, we can go back to November Rain, but do you remember the Estranged video that came out after this? It was the third part of the epic trilogy, as they called it. They had Don't Cry, November Rain, and then the Estranged video.
No, I never saw that. What happened with that?
Okay, the Estranged video is kind of amazing. The song is incredible. I still say Use Your Illusion should not have been 2 records. They should have cut out a shit ton of fat and just made it one amazing record instead of 2 very good records. But they had like all these really long songs, so they had to make it 2 records. Estranged isn't quite November Rain quality, but it's November Rain light. And the video is like November Rain if it didn't have a story structure and it was just over the top ridiculousness. It includes Axl Rose jumping off of an aircraft carrier and then swimming with dolphins.
I mean, that sounds epic to me.
It's pretty epic. It's amazing. Yeah, so Guns N' Roses, those epic videos, you should watch them all. You should watch them all in a row. Watch them all in sequential order.
I'll have to go back and check those out because I've seen plenty of Guns N' Roses videos, but I don't remember that one. So I'll have to go back and watch those in order to get the full, full
like
thing
12,
that they were going for.
They had like 12 singles between those 2 records. It's insane. They were putting out a video every other day. They had a video for a song called Garden of Eden, which I remember when it came out, and I love it. It's kind of one of their punkier jams. But then they had a video for a song called The Garden. And I'm like, they released The Garden as a single? Check it out. It's an okay song. It's famous for having Alice Cooper on it. But the video is just like stock footage. It was just like Guns N' Roses were just pumping out videos every other day for like a 2-year period there.
Yeah, that's nuts, man. They had so many. You're right. They had so many singles off those couple of albums. It's unbelievable. Another band who had a bunch of singles off of a double-sided CD was Smashing Pumpkins. They had a lot of big videos, but I would say their most epic video, it could be argued again, but I would say it's probably Tonight Tonight with the Zeppelin and like the weird like animations. Also felt like another Tim Burton type video.
Well, if you're going by my definition of epic, it is clearly the most epic video. Again, it's one of those ones. I'm going to do my little. I can't believe I didn't do my research going into this to see who directed this video. It's clearly their most epic as far as the production value. I didn't really care too much about what MTV told me during those days, but I remember every single MTV VMAs finale, and that year closed with Smashing Pumpkins doing Tonight Tonight, and it was largely in part of how much ingrained that video was into people's heads. I think that video, I mean, the song is great. Smashing Pumpkins during the 90s were doing amazing things. The song was great.
Yeah, that double-sided CD had quite a few hits on its hand. 1979 was on there as well. Zero was on there.
Dude, 1979 is such a good song. Oh my God. I'm going to be listening to Smashing Pumpkins tonight. That's what I'm going to be doing. I remember there was the joke, though, when our friend Greg said to me, he said, do you remember when Billy Corgan put out that solo record that nobody remembered?
Didn't he left Smashing Pumpkins? He did that solo record, and then a few years later, he went back to Smashing Pumpkins. Isn't that what happened?
Yes, that is exactly what happened. Now, talk about perfect segment to discuss this. Talk about my most heartbreaking thing over COVID was that I was supposed to do a week trip back up north to go do a week of Guns N' Roses shows. Smashing Pumpkins was opening on the tour.
Oh man, that would have been killer, dude.
I know. I was so stoked for it.
Man.
Yeah, but that video, I remember. I mean, I did rewatch it to do for prep for the podcast. But the blues and the color. I don't mean the sadness. I mean the color blues in that video are just so distinctive. Lots of blues and violets with pale whites. And just feeling like you're watching a 1940s stage play.
Yeah, it definitely
feels
like
a dream. But you're in a dream. They were all over with the 90s in their videos. I'll talk about it a little bit. The Today video to me is almost 90s in a nutshell. Let's get this ice cream truck and have a cute couple rolling around in grass and a creepy Billy Corgan singing in an ice cream man suit, like he's clearly stalking them.
Oh yeah, I mean that stalking children was the big thing in the 90s. Now kids aren't allowed outside because parents freaked out in the 90s about it, which maybe they had some right to, but I think it was a little overblown for sure.
Okay. So I looked up the director of Tonight Tonight, and I'm shocked. It's Jonathan Dayton, who did direct some feature films, but nothing really visually stunning. His most famous work would have been Little Miss Sunshine, which was a brilliant movie.
I saw that movie. It was a very good movie.
And I would have thought that the guy who directed Today directed that movie, not Tonight.
John, let's finish this off with one of your favorite bands, Van Halen. We're going to mention Right Now, which came out in 1992. I don't remember seeing this video as a child. I might have seen it later on, but I really don't remember this video. And I should remember this video because when I saw it, I was like, oh my God, they're saying so much in this video. Obviously, they're being straight in your face about it. There's no question about what they're talking about. There's words on the screen telling you what they're talking about. Don't wait for tomorrow. Do whatever it is that you want to do it today because tomorrow might not exist.
Yeah, it was a very socially conscious video. And Van Halen was not known for being socially conscious. That wasn't their thing.
Not the first thing I think of when I think about Van Halen.
No, I mean, either era. It's not even a Sammy versus Dave thing.
True.
Sammy Hagar wasn't writing socially conscious songs pre or in Van Halen. This video was meant to say something, and I'm surprised you don't have a remembrance of when it was, because it was very much a pop culture thing. It was one of those videos that was on all the time. SNL parodied it. When Crystal Pepsi came out, that was the song they used for the commercial, and it was Right Now. It's funny, you're talking about socially conscious.
Oh man, I think I remember that commercial, man, because I love Crystal Pepsi.
But now it's being used to promote Pepsi products, and it was Right Now, Pepsi, Crystal Pepsi will be at your your local grocer kind of deal with the same little fonts with the thing and the typing. But no, it's a great song. I have a lot of fond memories of it. This was kind of a very brief period of time of me being a teenager and actually liking Sammy era Van Halen. Really, really just great song. And the video is very powerful.
It is. It says a lot.
And it holds up because even though it looks very 90s, it's not CG. They're showing you real people. They're showing you real things that are going on. They're telling you to go see that, help that homeless person that you walk by every day.
Right. Well, that's what I was going to say. The sad and true part of this video is that most of the problems that they talk about, very little has changed in the past 30 years.
And I don't know if you watched that video I told you to check out, the Nerf Herder Van Halen video.
Oh no, I forgot to check that one out.
It's done as basically a parody of the Van Halen Right Now video, but it's singing about their experience as Van Halen fans. And it's awesome. It's awesome. If you've never seen the Nerf Herder video for Van Halen, I highly recommend. It's Weezer rock about Van Halen as a parody of the Right Now video.
I mean, that sounds right up my alley. I'm going to have to go check that out for sure.
Now, since we're talking about epic videos, I want to talk about one more. The power of the 90s video brought some people out of seclusion. Artists who were dead to rights and playing at your local county fair. Who at one time sold 50 million copies of a single record and were now at your local nightclub. And that was Meatloaf. The Meatloaf I Would Do Anything for Love video made Meatloaf a household name again. Do you remember this video?
Oh, yeah. I didn't watch this video recently. I forgot about it. We were talking about Meatloaf a while ago, but I actually went back and listened to Bad Outta Hell, which is actually pretty good. It's a pretty good record.
Bad Outta Hell is one of my favorite records. Bad Outta Hell, just a little Meatloaf thing. Todd Rundgren and John Steinman, who were the masterminds behind Bad Outta Hell, saw Meatloaf in Rocky Horror Picture Show and were like, yo, let's make an album with that guy. And we have this awesome idea. We're going to give it gothic undertones. It's going to be this rock opera. And we're going to get people from Bruce Springsteen's E Street Band to play on the record. And it is just going to be this awesome combination. And it sold 50 million copies worldwide. Yeah. It was a major, one of the highest selling records of all time. And then Meatloaf, without the genius of Todd Rundgren and John Steinman, isn't doing much. Nobody cares. So then John Steinman says, hey, Meatloaf, let's make Bad Outta Hell 2. 20 years later. And they put out this video. And it becomes a massive hit. It sold 15 million copies. Now, here's the video is so over the top. It is so crazy. And it makes no sense. Yeah. It makes no sense. It starts off with this high-speed police chase of a motorcycle, because motorcycles were huge in the 90s for some reason in videos. Going into this cabin, then the motorcyclist disappears, and all of a sudden Meatloaf is singing, and he looks like Ace Frehley from Kiss 80 years later, and it's just insane. There's some hot chick that he's singing with, and then halfway in between, there's police outside investigating a murder of who? I don't know. I never figured that out. It makes no sense, but it's a great video.
I always felt like in that video he was dressed like the Beast from Beauty and the Beast, like the Disney movie from the 90s. Like,
it's definitely it's definitely very much that there's the allusions to Beauty and the Beast are very heavy-handed. That is definitely without a doubt they were going for that. I mean, they got the smoking hot chick on the flying piano. Yes, that's right, everybody, a flying piano. And now, so huge budget, huge special effects. And it makes no sense, which completely makes sense when you look at who the director of this video was.
Who was that?
Drum roll. Think of it in your head. Think of the drum roll in your head. And I'll reiterate. Huge budget. Makes no sense. Michael Bay.
Oh my God. What?
Michael Bay directed the Meatloaf "I Would Do Anything for Love" video. I was that helicopter that's in the police chase in the beginning. You watch it now, knowing that you're waiting for Martin Lawrence and Will Smith to jump out. Then Sean Connery to be like, "Welcome to the Rock."
Oh my God, dude, Michael Bay. That's awesome. I did not know that. That's a fantastic piece of knowledge.
There you go, Michael Bay, everybody. Definitely doesn't understand story structure, but he knows how to make an explosion.
Right. All right, guys. So that was your flashback to the 1990s videos. What were some of the videos we missed? Leave a comment. Let us know. Be nice. Be reading some of those. On the next episode, if you guys want to keep listening along with us, again, this is supposed to be like a journey mainly for me, not so much for John, because he knows a lot more than I do about this stuff. But if you want to come along with this journey, the next thing we're going to be listening to is the Beach Boys' Pet Sounds, which is widely regarded as one of the greatest records of all time. I'm not very familiar with this at all. I only know a couple songs off this record, so I'm going to be listening to this heavily over the next few weeks until we record next. So if you guys want to prepare for the next show, put that in your ear holes. Don't forget to support us over on Patreon. We definitely appreciate it. Patreon.com/Nerdthusiast. And remember to follow us on social media. We're on Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, all those things. John, where can people follow you at?
Find me on Twitter at SloopJ232 and on Instagram at SloopJohn232, which are Pet Sounds influenced names.
There you go. And if you want to follow my personal account, it's at FromNJ2CA. The 2 is a number 2. Thank you guys for listening to this show. We hope you enjoyed it. Please leave us some feedback. If you guys could give us, a thumbs up, like the video if you're watching the video. If you're listening on podcast services, please give us a 5-star review. We definitely appreciate it. We hope you guys have a great day. John, thank you for joining me today.
My pleasure. This has been a treat, man.
Yeah, I love doing the show. Thank you for doing this. We hope you guys are enjoying the show. Let us know. Have a great day.